Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce saying, Joyce, we have so much to talk about. Tom Brady retired today.
Again,
Can't
again,
wait. And
exactly 1 year.
what else is the big news this week? Oh, Beyonce's going on tour, I saw. Great.
Are you going to get tickets? Is Ticketmaster going to crash? Is the real
Probably.
question.
No, Joyce, we're not here to talk about all those big major things. Plus, Sean Payton going to the Denver Broncos as a coach. That was a big thing. All of these stories kind of broke at the same time. The Academy quietly, but
Quietly.
kind of quietly said Andrea Riseborough is going to keep her Oscar nomination for two Leslie.
Shocking. I am so shocked that they did not rescind the nomination.
So that was the big news of the week that we'll obviously be talking about here. But I was thinking, I was like, it's so boring to be like, we knew that they weren't going to do this, but
But
we
we
knew they
did.
weren't going to do
We
this.
knew.
Like
This was
there was no way they were ever going to rescind the nomination. So Joyce, yesterday, all week, it's been building, obviously, since she was a surprise nominee. I can't believe this is only last week that the Oscar nominations came out.
it's been 17 years and somehow we're also in February already.
Feels like a long time ago, but she was nominated at the Oscars. Everyone was shocked that the grassroots that I've seen in scare quotes in every article, the grassroots campaign scare quoted worked, and that Andrea Riseborough is a surprise Oscar nominee and Best Actress. And since then, there's been nothing but reporting that maybe it was over the line campaigning, and then the
It was
Academy
not.
was,
It was not. No.
and then
No.
the Academy was,
We talked about this when the campaign was happening 2 weeks
yes.
ago. They broke no rules.
So and then the Academy was kind of forced to issue a statement after a Matt Belloni piece, basically, that was like, we're going to investigate to see what happened. And then yesterday, they were going to meet on Tuesday. We're recording this Wednesday at the Board of Governors. And shocking, like we said, they said nothing bad or nothing was going to change. They released a statement to the press, Joyce, and then one to the Academy members. I'll read the one to the press first. It said, based on concerns that surfaced last week around the To Leslie Awards campaign, the Academy began a review into the film's campaigning tactics. The Academy has determined the activity in question does not rise to the level that the film's nomination should be rescinded. However, we did discover social media and outreach campaigning tactics that caused concern. Those tactics are being addressed with the responsible parties directly. And then they go into another bunch of load of junk about like the rules. The reason we have campaign rules is to ensure a fair and ethical process.
So in the second graph that you did not read, my favorite phrase in that is like they're gonna review
Yes.
the components and the regulations that must be clarified to help create a better framework for a respectful, inclusive, and unbiased campaigning. Unbiased campaigning, oxymoron.
Doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's definitely a lot of words, though. A lot of
Major word salad in here. And then in the first graph that you did read, the most telling part is just the first sentence. Based on concerns that surfaced last week, aka after she got the damn nomination, because no one cared when the campaign was actually going on 2 weeks ago. Like everyone was talking about it, but no one thought it would actually work. So if you were genuinely concerned about this campaign, you would have brought this up while it was happening, or even in the week between voting closing and the nominations being announced, because voting closed the 17th. Nominations were announced the 24th. But no one thought it would work. So they only cared after she got the nomination. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
It's also unclear who cared. All the Matt Belloni stuff was like there has not been it doesn't seem like there were a lot of formal complaints about it.
Well, yes. And then yesterday after this happened, Kyle Buchanan, he tweeted the statement as well, obviously, as everyone did.
Yes.
And then he also tweeted, quote, I wonder how much of this was actual Academy members complaining and how much of it was outraged rival strategists working the phones, because I got my fair share of calls, ellipsis.
So in the statement, the Academy, the Bill Kramer, president of the Academy, or is he CEO? I guess he's CEO of the Academy, Joyce, released. He didn't mention To Leslie by name, but he said, Dear Academy members, as I'm sure many of you have read, there have been some concerns over recent campaigning. Through our review, we discovered social media outreach tactics that cause concern. We are addressing these concerns directly with the responsible parties. The purpose of the Academy's campaign regulations is to ensure fair and ethical awards process. These are the core values of the Academy. It is apparent that components of these regulations must be clarified to help create a better framework for respectful, inclusive, and unbiased campaigning. There's that phrase again. The Academy continually assesses and evolves our policy, rules, and procedures, and these changes will be made after the award cycle and shared with our membership. So a funny thing about this, a lot of the stories you might have read, if you're watching this, were like, as we talked about, Frances Fisher was a chief cheerleader for this. But Frances Fisher, while she mentioned other candidates, which is a no-no according to the specific rules, she could do that because she's no different than basically you and I, Joyce. She's an Academy member.
Yeah, she's an Academy member, but she's not on the Momentum Pictures payroll.
Correct. So she didn't really break any rules. So I see people being like, well, obviously she's going to get dinged when they're like, we're going to address these concerns directly with the responsible parties. It's like, they might be like, hey, Frances, you shouldn't have tweeted that. But what are they going to say? They really can't, unless they're like.
It's her personal Instagram page, her personal Twitter page. She can say whatever she wants, just like you and me. Was it like we talked about this when it was happening? It was probably not wise of her to say that the locks were Cate Blanchett, Michelle Yeoh, Viola Davis, and then she later added Danielle Detweiler. And here's the thing. Like we all use the phrase locks all the time, but no one is a lock because the votes haven't been counted yet. We just mean these people are probably the least likely to be snubbed. And in this case, it was only Cate and Michelle Yeoh, really. Like we literally said this, it's like, she probably should not have mentioned Viola or Danielle, but she did. So that was her mistake. And that was just for her own sake, because then like Film Twitter was already mad before nominations that she did that.
Right.
And then obviously Viola and Danielle did not get nominated. Andrea did. And the other thing that she tweeted was like, everyone put Andrea in number one because she just needs like 218 votes and blah, blah, blah. And these other people are locked. So she was telling people how to vote strategically. First of all, like, why are we acting like everything she says is gospel? Like, she's just a member. She's saying something that, pundits say all the time, like so-and-so are locked. We would not say Danielle or Viola are locked. But like, why would you read that, even if you're a member, and just take her word for it and believe it? Like,
it seems like a lot. I think
like why are people assuming that Academy voters just read that and was like, oh shit, man, like I gotta vote for Andrea because Frances Fisher said so.
I also think a lot of people, even who pay attention to this, don't. I think my impression was a lot of people, even who pay attention to this, don't actually realize how it works. Not to be too bad faith.
How like the works and the voting works, but yeah, but a lot of them have been members for years. I'm sure they heard over the years like how you should put your favorite up top,
right?
Especially with Best Picture now.
So yeah, I don't think so. I'll be curious to see. I think the way I read this statement, and you might agree, is that it was basically the Academy being like, please stop yelling about this. Nothing is going to change, and we'll address it later, which to me is going to be maybe like, hey, maybe think before you tweet kind of thing. But I don't think they're going to set new rules.
She should not have said anyone were locks, but she's free to say that because she does not work for the studio.
Right. Exactly. So, and the other thing is, like, I think a lot of it was definitely became like a but her emails type thing around Mary McCormick Joyce, who is the spouse of the director of To Leslie, which I actually watched. We could talk about this too, because I
watched it last week. You watched it this weekend.
I watched it this weekend, and she was very aggressively emailing. But again, who cares?
She's also really? Not a member.
Who cares what she's doing? Like, I didn't really understand.
She doesn't work for the studio either.
I saw somebody being like, "Oh, a lot of reporting on it that I was like, just a little dicey." Not to be like a media critic, Joyce, but I found a lot of the media stories to be a little undercooked. But it was one about her emails, and it was like, well, she's having a party, but they're not showing the movie, and that's technically not allowed if it's part of the campaign. And I'm like, yeah, all that's true, but again, she's not really part of the. I mean, she's married to the campaign, but she's really not part of the campaign, it seemed. And like, if she wants to invite people over to her house, I guess how are you going to regulate that without showing the movie? I just found the whole thing like it's like very a lot of splitting hairs.
If you're annoyed by this, I don't know if you've been following the Oscars and all this stuff for decades, which is like the only people who care about this are just awards nuts and film Twitter, right? Like my regular friends don't care about this. They might have seen like Andrea's name in the news.
Right.
But like they don't care. Like this is not like that big of a deal in the real world.
No.
But if you've been following the Oscars this whole time, like you're just naive as hell if you think no one has ever done this before in the history of Oscars campaigning. Like fucking Mary Pickford invited Oscar voters to her house.
It just seems a little,
That was at the second Academy Awards and she won.
It does seem, it
Like
just seems,
campaigning tactics have been like this forever. And like I don't know, like are people just discovering that voters are just vouching for their friends and things can get ugly and dicey? Like no one cared when Harvey Weinstein was bullying people and running rampant for decades. No one did a thing. And now it's like we got a surprise nomination for Andrea Riseborough because Mary McCormick and Frances Fisher got people to tweet about it, and she got it.
I saw also another story was comparing it to the Alone Not Alone rescinded nomination.
Not the same thing at all.
Not the same thing at all. That guy literally broke a rule, which was I forget his name. It was Bruce something, right?
Bruce Broughton. And then because it's supposed to be anonymous, like the music branch.
Correct.
That even though it's not anonymous because you can just Google and
Yes. But technically the idea is it's anonymous, and then he emailed specific people, I think like a third of the branch.
Yeah, because he was also like the head of the branch too. Like,
right. Saying like, please listen to my song. That was a breach of the rules, even though everyone knows who writes these songs. It's not a secret, but it is technically a secret, right? Like there are nuances in the rules that are maybe like silly or not really, but to compare like what Andrea Riseborough's campaign did to that is disingenuous, I feel like. So there was a lot of that seemingly in this whole
It's very disingenuous. And the other thing is like the Oscars and the whole awards industrial complex is not a meritocracy.
No.
Like, we know this. I think most people know this, and if you don't, I think you subconsciously know it too. It's like, and like, yes, they have these like vague rules and people quote unquote obey the rules, but it's really just to uphold their system, which favors big studios with money, deep pockets, and they could just shill their contenders. They could, just throw parties, endless parties, throw screenings. They have like one of the rules is like they can have screenings with like drinks and food, but not excessively. Like, what the hell does that mean?
Right.
Like, how many screenings and Q&As and parties did Kristen Stewart do last year for Stewart? Like, not dunking on her at all. She could do whatever she wants. Like she quote unquote played by the rules. No one had a problem with it. She was campaigning, but you're just upholding that system, and the system disadvantages independent film and independent filmmakers who, like the Two Leslie team, they don't have money like that. Like we've said this, like the whole reason they did this is because they had no money.
Right.
So they had to take an unorthodox approach, and they did it. And yes, like I understand it felt like it came out of nowhere because it felt like, no pun intended, she had like no momentum in the fall, right?
Certainly not.
So it felt weird. And like, yeah, they're like, celebrities were just like tweeting the same copy that like Mary McCormick was sending them. Like, whatever, who cares? It's like here's the thing, like people can tweet and write whatever they want on the internet. Like you still don't know how they're going to vote. Like no one's being forced to vote for her. They still have to make that decision themselves. And I know the stereotype is that like actors are dumb, right? But like, are you telling me that Frances Fisher went to everyone's house and held them at gunpoint and was like, you have to put her at number one?
Right. It is possible that they did just vote for it because they liked it. I will say two things about this. I feel like the rules of what you're allowed to say on campaigning definitely has hit a fever pitch, because there was also, we never talked about it, but I believe this is another Matt Belloni special about Janet Yang, who's the Academy president, right? Or what is she now? She tweeted about Michelle Yeoh, and then people are like mad about that. And I think she ended up, or was it Instagram? Whatever it was, she deleted the tweet. It was like, I'm so heartened that Michelle Yeoh will be a contender here for awards recognition, which is like, maybe like pushing your finger on the scale as a member of the Academy. But also we knew she was getting nominated, so who cares? I don't know. And then I found one last night. I was sending you Whoopi Goldberg doing press. Whoopi Goldberg, a great producer of Till, Joyce, and she hosts a show.
She's also in Till.
And she's also in Till, and she's also on the board of governors, I believe, right? And a former Oscar winner. So she's got like a lot of connections to the Academy. And she gave an interview to a UK publication. I can't vouch for its standards or whatever, but she wrote, she said, I would love to get a nomination for our movie. That would make me happy. But Danielle, I mean, The Woman King was good. There's a lot of good stuff out there, but nobody can touch this girl. Now, technically, that is saying something about a rival
Yeah,
movie,
because that's
right?
also one of their quote unquote rules, that you can
Yes.
campaign, but you can't slander the competition.
Which is also a silly rule, because I was thinking, like, anytime you're like, they were like, they pointed to a fact, one of the articles pointed to the fact that I think the Till, was it the,
Their
sorry,
Instagram
the
page,
To
they
Leslie
were
Instagram page.
the To Leslie Instagram page quoted Richard Roper's review of To Leslie, and the line that they quoted, he mentioned Kate Blanchett, and it was basically like, as much as I admire Blanchett and Tar, Riseborough's performance is like better or whatever, basically,
Yes.
And then so that was that was an old post, and that was published because it was part of his like his favorite films of 2022 or whatever. So that was publicized last week. And then here's the mistake that like the To Leslie team made. They deleted that post.
They got
Because
spooked
then
and deleted
it just feels like you're admitting guilt. And it's like
Correct.
no, they also did nothing wrong. Like the To Leslie team is not the one that's like saying, oh, Kate Blanchett sucks, which is not even what Richard Roper said.
I
They're
also think
quoting the critic.
I also think it's weird because, like, I can't like, that's a specific rule, right? You can't mention the competition. But I would say if that ended up being flagged and someone was like in front of a kangaroo court or whatever it's going to be to decide this, I would be like, first of all, like, anytime you're sharing, anytime I've seen people be like, the best performance of the year, certainly you would share, right? A campaign, like the focus.
Yeah, like the positives. You want to share the positives.
And if you're saying best performance of the year, by definition, then you're saying the other performances are not as good, right? Like, not to be too much of a hair splitter or pedantic, but I'm like, just because you're not mentioning the competition by name, you're certainly mentioning the competition. So I just think the whole thing is very silly, I guess, is how I
It's just like, well, if you're making a top 10 list of the best performances of the year, you're just saying that people who did not make your list are not in your top 10.
Right.
So if like Andrea Riseborough is in your top 10 and Kate Blanchett isn't,
right,
that's just like, but like, again, the To Leslie Instagram page did not write that they were quoting someone.
correct.
But they should not have deleted that. That was
no, you never delete or never tweet. I really think maybe the new Academy rules will be never tweet. Academy members, please consider what you're tweeting.
You should, like, people, honestly, everyone can save themselves so much trouble just by not engaging at all.
Get off social media. Maybe that's going to be the new tweet for the new rule for
Yeah,
next
but like, it's just this whole thing has gotten so out of hand, and I do think it's just people being so pressed about like this. They basically hacked the system, right? Because
Right.
again, like everyone else has been, playing by the rules, and it's still shady. Like you can't be so naive enough to think like this does not go on behind the scenes. Like, we just don't know about it. But
Right.
like everyone talks, everyone tells other people to vote for their friends and stuff, and like we just like they're just not public about it. And like Frances Fisher was, and she again still didn't say anything bad, and people misinterpret her post because they think, again, people's reading comprehension's terrible. Like, they think she was saying don't vote for Viola Davis and Danielle Detweiler, which is not what she said. She just said put Andrea number 1.
Right. And maybe
like, she have 4 other spots.
And that's why she got nominated. I mean, like,
I and then the other thing is, I think people are conflating 2 issues here: her campaign working, and then obviously people are very upset about Viola and Danielle not getting in. The optics are not great.
Right. And the history of the Academy with Black actresses is not strong, to say the least.
Right. But the thing is like those 2 things happened, but they're not necessarily related to each other, because everyone is now also saying, oh, she stole their slots. No one is guaranteed a slot until you count the votes.
Right. And
so
if you listen to Frances Fisher, the people who definitely then would be who would quote unquote have stolen those spots are Michelle Williams and Anna de Armas, because they were not really the locks. So according to Franny.
Yeah, like she didn't mention either of them in her list.
So I definitely think, and I think if you think about it, like, obviously we'll never know the vote totals, and however there's like, I think there's like 1,800 what's the actors branch? It's like 1,300 maybe, I think.
Yeah, and then you need like 2. I mean, it's the largest one. Yeah, you need 218.
But you don't know how that actors branch is split and where they're located. obviously Anna de Armas had certainly, while in Hollywood everyone was excited about To Leslie and Andrea Riseborough, clearly Anna de Armas had more international support, let's say,
And
based
Colin
on
Farrell's,
Colin Farrell support. But I would maybe count him as an international figure, right? Because
because
he's
he's
like
Irish.
Irish, sure. And Michelle Williams was in there as well, and maybe not as, maybe people thought maybe supporting or whatever. But I was like, I definitely think that played a part of it too. And yeah, like it is two issues
Well,
that
that's
are
also like
unfortunately
if you're just placing so much importance on her post, which again, it's just like, why? She's just another person writing whatever she wants on the internet. Like I think her that post had more impact on film Twitter losing their shit than it did on actual Academy members.
I honestly do think it's because she was so naked. Like it's stuff we don't talk about, but we all know based on like
Yes, yeah.
like how small the margins are. I think no one really thinks about the fact that like it's
This
200
is how people talk behind the scenes.
and also that it's like 200 people ultimately deciding like what it is, right? Like we spend all this time talking about the Oscars and it feels like it's a monolith of like millions of people are voting or whatever, and it's like no, literally like 200 people can make or break who gets nominated for an Oscar, as we saw here with Andrea Riseborough. Like I don't think she might have literally just gotten like 150 first place votes basically.
Well, the other thing is I also,
that's it.
Like we all know, like, the quote unquote locks are Kate and Michelle Yeoh. So like, I feel like they just, obviously we will never know, but like, I feel like they just monopolize a majority of the votes. And then it was probably, very close between all the other contenders for their spots.
I almost wonder, like, do you think it would be better or worse if they actually did release the vote totals?
Well, here's the other thing, like people are so mad, and then so if they had rescinded the nomination, which again they were never going to do because this whole thing is colossally dumb, they were not going to replace the nomination. It would just stay at 4, like what happened with Bruce Broughton, that the original song nominees remained at 4 then. So it remained at 4, but people, like a lot of people I think assume Danielle is, it's like, you don't know this. That's just what you're hoping it is. Like, what if it wasn't her or Viola? What if it was like
Olivia Colman,
or like Margot Robbie? It's like I understand, like, people being mad, and yes, like best actress is the whitest category, right? Mm-hmm. And like there was a chance that we could have had 3 women of color nominated this year for the first time ever, and we ended up with 1, who is also the first Asian actress, what, like in her lifetime, who we know is Asian and has but like there's other reasons why like Danielle and Viola miss. Like it's just systemic racism and unconscious biases and just the industry in general. And like it's like Hollywood is, like they have an uphill battle, just like independent film. I'm not comparing, like, the same travails, but it's like the system works against them as well. And like, Viola has talked about like how much trouble she had just selling The Woman King as a project because it's an all Black female cast. And I think, the conversation should have started earlier about like, why did The Woman King, which was a box office success, got great reviews, and great audience reviews too, why did it miss PGA?
Right.
Like it should have made PGA. It should have made SAG Ensemble. Like why did it miss? And like no one was really talking about it. Like why did like The Whale get in over The Woman King?
And it also felt like no one, I mean, I got the sense throughout the whole season from having talked about it, and even us, I mean, I'll put myself in here. Viola specifically felt like such a someone who was getting nominated, but like not enough for people to like keep talking about. It just felt like the conversation wasn't.
Like we felt like, separate from like all the race issues, like just based on how like the performances and everything, like we've talked about like how it didn't feel like that was a number 1 getter, right? And she could have been someone who would hit all the precursors and miss in the end. And also there's just like the action genre bias, like Charlize Theron didn't get in for Mad Max,
and like even this year again, like not race, or obviously not a race issue, but like Mia Goth was very outraged that she didn't get in for for Pearl.
Yeah,
it
because they
seems.
don't do horror either.
And she like was basically like, it's a disgrace that they don't take horror seriously. And obviously there is a conversation we had just from a creativity standpoint of like why the Academy doesn't consider genre movies as important as other movies, right? Like, which is a history as well, though not obviously as fraught as the systemic racism that we've seen in the Academy for 100 years. But I wonder, I guess the two things I was thinking of out of this will be, I think there'll be more calls for expanding the nominees to like 10. And
Which
also if they did, I could really think that'll happen. Or that, I mean, if you end up doing would this have been different, or what would have happened if it was gender neutral categories and it was like actor?
Well, you just saw like, no.
I mean, I just think one of those two things will end up happening. I think there'll be more, at least, or there'll be more of a call for that to start happening. That'll either be gender neutral categories to get like 10 nominees in each of these categories, or 10 nominees total.
But again, that also doesn't get, like, people think like that would help, like in this specific case, like Danielle and Viola, but like you're just making an assumption and you don't know.
Right. I definitely don't think you would know, but I do think it would, at least in theory, you'd have more people. By having more people, it would either give them a chance to be more exclusive and bad, or maybe the idea is maybe they would be.
Listen, Danielle didn't even make the gender neutral category at the Spirit Awards.
Correct. And nobody was that.
So like, yeah, like I think more people are upset about Danielle's snub than Viola's snub, but then it's just like the double whammy. And like we've talked about, Danielle definitely felt like a #1 getter, but Till was very underseen. And yeah, it's a completely separate discussion about like whether or not this type of unconventional campaign that To Leslie did would have worked if Till had done the same thing.
Well,
and like everyone, is just gonna be like, oh, like Black woman would have never had the opportunity to, like, if like this had happened, they would rescind like their nomination. Like, no, they would have not rescinded like their nomination.
That I saw that was
at all.
anonymous Academy member suggested that.
Like, no, like they would have kept their nomination too. Like it's two different issues here. And the reality is like, yes, like Viola and Danielle hit most precursors. Viola hit all of them. Danielle hit most of them. And they quote unquote play by the rules. They were backed by studios that spent money campaigning for them. They campaigned, they were on a circuit. So it felt like Andrea was not playing by the rules. So then I understand why people are mad. But the reality is like Danielle and Viola, women of color, Black women, like they are operating in a system that's built against them as Black women. And that sucks. And that's not Andrea Riseborough's fault, who, is benefiting from being white as well. But again, it's a separate issue. And like the two of them should have never had to worry about so to speak, like losing their spots, which again are not guaranteed, right? It's like,
I mean, certainly I feel like I had both of them in. And I had it definitely was a surprise. Like we said, I mean, it's a surprise that Andrea Riseborough got in. And yeah,
and like maybe it's just like, like we've talked about Viola not being a #1 getter, that type of performance. So maybe just like some, actors in the acting branch were also not as passionate about Danielle's performance as they were about Andrea's or Anna's, or as film Twitter is about Danielle's. Well,
I also wonder, and again, bless the Academy for doing a great job, like expanding their membership and all these different things. But it's interesting, like, did Danielle Deadwild, like, does Till carry over? Does the story like travel overseas, right? Like, I mean, Ana de Armas as Marilyn Monroe, a global icon, I could see that being, I understand why that had a lot of international support. And I'm like, does Till end up being like, do people understand that story? I hope they would, right? But like, I mean, does that actually, is it a movie that goes globally, that the story is understandable globally to actors? Maybe I'm just making them be too stupid. I don't know. But
I mean, it's a very American story, obviously. Right. But I don't know. I mean, like she missed the Globe nomination, but then everyone was chalking it up like to like the HFPA being racist.
Sure.
And everything. But you know, I don't know, like maybe they watched them. Like I think they would have watched the movie. Like there's only like 200 of them in the Asia.
I got this sense everybody probably, I hope they watched the movie, right?
Yeah.
And I also think having, so we could, I guess we could transition here to the actual movies, and like I watched To Leslie and I was like, oh, I didn't particularly think it was a great movie. Not to
The movie is
and
fine.
and I didn't even think Andrea was particularly revelatory, but I was like, is that because I'm coming into it with the bias now of being like, well, she better be great because she beat out Danielle Deadwyler and Viola Davis, or is it because it's not, it's a totally passable, solid performance? I just was like, it didn't blow me away based on the tweets. I was maybe expecting more, like the Kate Winslet being like, it's the greatest acting I've ever seen. I'm like, Kate Winslet's been better in like 100 things. You know, it's like she was like, she's a great actor. So
She's just stumping for her friend.
I know she is, but I was like, so I was like, oh, it's perfectly fine, and I still think I would have put Viola Davis ahead of her, and I could see, I think it's in the same class as Danielle Deadwyler, and I guess if you're picking like a fave, if you're an actor who's friends with Andrea Riseborough, maybe you'd go with your friend. I mean, that seemingly would be what happened.
Yeah, I would vote for Viola over it from that group of three.
Definitely, she's
Over
amazing in
if you made me
movies.
pick one of the three, I would do Viola all the
Yeah,
way. Um, yeah, I thought like I said last week, the film it just feels like a throwback indie film
yeah,
from like I don't know, like 25 years ago or something.
yeah.
And she's good. It's a very like I after watching it, I understand why actors like the performance. Like it's very actor friendly. She's basically an alcoholic who squandered her lottery winnings, and then she's trying to reconcile with her son. So there's a lot of screaming and yelling.
Yes,
Um,
a lot of big yell. It's like quiet yelling. It I think it reminded me of Renee Zellweger in Cold Mountain.
yeah,
That was what I
a
equated
lot
it
of
with.
accents too.
A lot of accents, a lot of like, they made the rain.
My
Whatever the
favorite
hell the
line
line
was
is.
when she was arguing with her son, and then she's just like, I am sad. And then she made sad like 4 syllables long. It was amazing.
Uh,
That should be her Oscar clip.
it reminded, I guess if it was like the 80s, it would have been like a Deborah Winger movie, I felt like.
Yeah, maybe.
Or Renee Zellweger in the 90s or like 2000s.
Yeah, like it's definitely like an old school vibe, but it's a very Beatty performance. And I do feel like maybe if they had actually try to campaign to other bodies, like she could have probably got into SAG too. Like it's like it is in the same, like you said, it's in the same wheelhouse as Danielle's performance.
I definitely was like, if it was a studio with a lot more financial wherewithal, let's say, than Momentum. No, not to besmirch Momentum or whatever, but
No,
if it
but
was like,
that's the whole reason they did this. They had
if
no
it
money.
was like Sony Picture Classics, or if it was Searchlight, or if it was MGM, even though MGM has a not a great track record of getting their actors nominated, as we've seen this year and last year. I feel like it would have been in the conversation the whole year. If you look at the reviews at a South by Southwest, they're like
Yeah.
outrageously good. All like real critics were like very excited about her performance. And it's like, man, it's so funny. Like now looking at some of them, because it's like, this is the type of performance people should really back and like. And now it's like, God damn, this performance got nominated for an Oscar. How dare they do this? But I mean, I definitely think it all makes sense on paper. The movie's totally fine. Do you think we've seen obviously already people wondering if this would get her to win, Joyce, over Kate Blanchett and Michelle Yeoh?
Did you move her up to first?
No, I did not.
You're
We
thinking
talked about
about it
this.
now. But I see the gleam in your eyes. You're thinking
I
about
did
it.
not move her up. We did talk about this in the column. My whole sense of it the whole time was, I think it was like, they don't now, all these people were like really excited about her, and then once she got the nomination, they're like, now what, kind of. And then now that there was so much backlash to the nomination, I obviously, like, a lot of actors were offended by that, like Mark Maron. I'm not surprised. He's in the movie. He's amazing in the movie, actually. Mark Maron, he's like the best part to me. He was really good. But he was like, screw the Academy. Christina Ricci, another person who was like, this is ridiculous, how are they doing this? So I feel like there will be some support from actors for her after getting put through this, even though, like, she was never mentioned by name, obviously, and all this stuff, but we all know that's why this happened. but I don't think it's going to make people want to put her at the top. I still don't. I just think that wouldn't be how it works. But I have her in third.
So before this whole fiasco happened with the investigation, I always felt like when the campaign was happening, I just felt like they just wanted to get her to nomination. Like they were not necessarily focusing on the win. It kind of felt like Jamie Lee Curtis's campaign, like she just wants the nomination.
Right.
Because she's never been nominated before and she's been working for a really long time. So, and I think if this whole controversy had not erupted after nominations, like we would not be talking about this. It'll just be like, oh, cool, like, you know, that worked and she made it in, right? And then we carry on and debating whether or not Kate or Michelle Yeoh will win. But because of this, I think, like, obviously because of this, that's why some people think she can win, and like it'll spur more sympathy from among actors. So like other thing is, I do think a lot, if not all, of her support from the actors are genuine, whether or not they're just friends or they did check out the movie and like her performance because it appeals to actors. But I think the other factor is I think they do want to like stick it to demand, right? Because a lot of them work in independent film or came up through independent film, and they know what the game is, and they know like independent film is disadvantaged because they don't have money to put forth a campaign like all these, you know, huge corporations and studios are able to. So I feel like that's another reason why a lot of the actors were willing to back her, in addition to liking her performance too, and like maybe also being friends with her and having worked with her. And but then, you know, now in the winter phase, you have the entire Academy voting, like almost 10,000 people. And I don't really know how many of these members from these other branches are gonna, you know, not just check it out. I hope they, you know, do their due diligence and watch it, but like, are they all gonna love it as well? And, you know, it's like maybe she could win if it was just actors voting for the winners.
I think if it was just actors voting, she would have a serious shot, but I still don't think she would. But I think with the rest of the Academy voting, I just feel like it's like unfortunate because the movie is so small and like it's a slight thing, and it's not like it's just a regular indie movie, like you said,
Yeah.
it's like from like, you know, and it's like it's stuff you've seen before done in like a good way. So I'm like happy to see stuff I've seen before, right? Like I love Top Gun Maverick, favorite movie last year, love it. Avatar rules. All this stuff is a retread of everything we've seen before. But yeah, I just think under the weight of these expectations, if you're popping it in and you're just like, I don't believe this is going to be so great, and especially if you were enjoying a fan of The Woman King or Till, you definitely, as just not even an actor and a member of the actors branch, just in general, you're gonna watch this and be like, get the hell out of here with this movie, right? I just think it's not gonna. I don't think she could. I'll say this now. I don't think she will win, but I guess if she won, I would not be surprised. I mean, who knows at this point? But I think.
I mean, I would just love her to win for the chaos, because like that, like I love a good twist, and like this whole campaign was a great twist.
And it was,
even though this whole investigation thing was completely unwarranted.
I mean, like you said, I think we're talking about two different things. There's like a serious conversation we had about like the Academy's racial failures and like racist background and all these things.
Like two things can be true.
And then there's a less serious kind of annoying conversation about campaigning where a lot of people are pretending to be outraged when they're really not. That was my view of it. Like there's a serious conversation and a less serious one. So
yeah, and then I also hate this the other conversation that's being had now about winners and how this whole thing could perhaps benefit Michelle Yeoh. Because
yeah, you were mentioning this. I did not. I can't say I saw this one. So maybe I've got my Twitter curated to a way where I'm just not getting
because
these
Viola and Danielle were snubbed. So yes. A lot of people think like now maybe Michelle would absorb their support, or people will be outraged that like two Black women were snubbed, so they'll vote for an Asian woman to win. So I'll just speak for myself.
Please.
I do not want anyone voting for me because I am not white. I don't need your pity vote. I don't need your charity. I don't need you to feel good about yourself, patting yourself on the back because you voted for someone who's not white. And this is also insulting to everyone involved because you're basically saying they're not worthy on merit.
Right.
And it's like also the other thing with Michelle and Everything Everywhere is like the movie is clearly beloved, and the whole like now almost year-long conversation about the movie and her performance and the support for her has never been centered on her being Asian.
No.
And like having like, yes, she would make history as the first Asian Best Actress winner, but that it's never like, it's part of her narrative, but it's never been like the sole focus of her narrative. So it's just gross and reductive to be like, she can win now because 2 Black women were snubbed.
Yes. And it's been more the narrative. What was way more, she's an actress who has deserved this recognition.
Yeah, like
not
she's
because
been
she's
underappreciated.
Asian.
Yeah.
Right. Not because she's Asian. She deserves recognition. It is definitely insulting. And yeah, I don't know. I don't believe that. I don't believe people vote that way, frankly, but maybe they do. And
I hope they don't, but you never know. But I'm more upset about, or not really upset. I'm just like, it's just like, why are you even suggesting this? Like this doesn't, if you're a Danielle and Viola supporter, this just makes you sound like an idiot if you're suggesting this. Like
so
this
Joyce,
doesn't help anybody.
So I watched To Leslie, like I said, and I rewatched Tar on Peacock.
As did I.
And I haven't seen Everything Everywhere recently, though I've seen it a second time. And I still am like, it's really close. But I mean, Cate Blanchett is so good in Tar, Joyce. I would have a hard time putting her in second place if I was a voter. I don't know. Also, she talks about this specifically in there's the showcase. One of the showcase scenes, Joyce, is when she's talking to the student at Juilliard, and she discusses kind of what you just said. Would you prefer to have somebody look at you, break down what you're doing because of your identity or because of your performance, basically?
Yeah, like after I watched it again, also to pause and read her Wikipedia page, obviously.
So Wikipedia is great. You sent me the screenshots of it. It was great.
I had to pause and to take screenshots and read the whole thing. Also, it's the old layout, which I miss because Wikipedia has a new layout.
I noticed that I didn't even realize that. I use Wikipedia a lot.
I do not like it. I do not like it.
So. Not a great user experience.
No.
Who can we talk to about that?
Yeah, and then, but I was like, damn, she's just so good. Like,
she's like really, really good. I'm still like, I'm plus, but not as effusive as everyone on the movie. I think it's like a little boring. I just found it a little. I find the first hour incredible. Because I think the opening, you have the great scene of the New Yorker conversation is great, and then the scene in Juilliard is great, and then her lunch with like Mark Strong, all that stuff is really good. And then it kind of like once she goes back to Berlin, I found it like dragged a little bit, and then obviously it picks up great at the end. So I'm just like, it's just a little slow in the middle, but I do think it's a very good movie, and I'm like not surprised it did so well. And I think it plays fine at home. So I was like, that was another thing I wanted to see. I wonder like. Most people have already seen all these movies, right? So it's like not like they're going to go back and rewatch. How do you think these voters are going to vote?
You mean voters or regular people?
No, voters. Like, do you think somebody who like you would hope that a majority of these people who voted for the Oscars have already seen these movies? So when they're going down to it at the end, they've already probably made their choice between Cate Blanchett and Michelle Yeoh, right? Like they're not going to go back.
Yeah, I think like the top contenders they've seen, they've probably have not seen To Leslie.
So they're definitely watching. I would imagine they're definitely going back to watch To Leslie. I think that'll be a popular item on the Academy screening site.
Yeah, like I think they've seen the top contenders already. Like Everything Everywhere has been out for almost a year, so and a lot of famous people love it. Yeah, no, like Tar is still a little bit too long for me, and it's not a quick long like The Fabelmans, but I still love it. It's still like in my top 4 of the year. And it's so funny. Like, oh, God. It's
very funny, and it's like
one of the funniest movies of the year.
Really good, and she's just so good. It just is like such a great performance, and it's like it's very, very I just find it very watchable. I kind of like. I think we said this either in the column or whatever, But like, I think she could win SAG because I think there's a sense that it's like medicine because it's like the artiste movie, but it's really actually very watchable. And I think if people put it on, even if they're a little bored, like I said, in the middle, it's like you're never not like engaged by her. And it's just like very watchable movie. It's and no more. I think like There Will Be Blood is like a much better movie that I certainly prefer for a variety of reasons. But I'm like, it's no different from an entertainment value standpoint, I feel like, than There Will Be Blood. And if people watch that and we're like, yeah, this rules, then I think they'll be able to watch Tar and feel the same way. So I don't think she's like a slam dunk to, I don't think Michelle Yeoh is a slam dunk to win SAG, is basically what I'm saying. I guess we'll see.
I would still favor Michelle at SAG. But no, I think, like, we've talked about this when Tar was premiering in the fall. Like, a lot of people thought it would be too esoteric and like cold, like Power of the Dog, but it's not. Like, it's way more accessible than Power of the Dog. It's very straightforward. And like,
Yeah, I saw you
I
on,
understand, like, some people are left confused by Power of the Dog. You're not really confused at all throughout Tar. Like, what's
no.
happening.
I saw people like, even last night after I was rewatching, I was going back and like looking at things and like people being like, it gets a little confusing at the end or whatever. I'm like, it really doesn't at all. Like, it's like very clear what's happening.
It's not hand holding you, which it shouldn't.
Right.
But it's not like, but like, you figure things out.
I guess it's confusing because there are those like shots of like when it's like, oh, is she like when she has the dreams like of the bed on fire, whatever. I'm like, just like, those are clearly like dreams though. I don't know. I just didn't think it was very confusing.
Yeah, like it's just like a manifestation of her downfall, basically. So
right.
It's not confusing.
No. So that's best actress choice. So we did it. We did Andrea Riseborough. We did
That's the only category that matters.
What else do you want to you said you made some predictions. I feel like we want to go through those, or what do we want to do?
We don't need to go through all of them, but I feel like we probably have similar predictions. Like, I'm assuming you have Everything Everywhere in first.
I have Everything Everywhere in first, and I have Top Gun Maverick in second, and I'm still not unconvinced that Top Gun Maverick could win, but we'll see. And then I have the Daniels in first for director and Todd Field in second because I think he's a strong contender. Though I see a lot of Spielberg in third. I still see a lot of experts going for Spielberg. It seems he's not totally out. I guess we'll see what the DGA does.
Yeah, I don't know if he can win the Oscar without DGA. And even if he does win DGA, that doesn't guarantee him the Oscar either. Right. So, and like, obviously he can't win BAFTA like some of these other people can.
Right.
But yeah, I have the Daniels in first there. I guess it's also like, how many do you have Everything Everywhere winning? Because it has a lot of paths to Best Picture.
So I have Best Picture, Best Director. I have Best Supporting Actor, obviously. And then I have Best Original Screenplay. I do think they're going to win over Martin McDonagh. And then I also have Best Film Editing.
I have Top Gun for editing and Banshees for screenplay, but I can see them just sweeping screenplay as well.
So I have a winning 5.
Just like Critics' Choice.
Yeah. And then I had questions for you on like some of these where I'm just like, I would look like, so adapted screenplay, I still have Women Talking in first, but what if Top Gun wins? That was what I was thinking.
I have Top Gun in second. And when I was doing these last week, I was like, should I put Top Gun in first?
I have it in second too, and I really think it could win. I don't know. I know that's nuts, but I really think it could.
I don't think it's nuts. I think it's more that, okay, so I think there's different factions here. I think there's people, a smaller group, like people like us who support the nomination for Top Gun Maverick in adapted screenplay. And then there are a lot of people who think it's a waste of a spot and like, why the fuck is it nominated here? Like, it should not be here. But this category, obviously was very weak, and Top Gun is a beloved film, and like we've said, it is a great testament to story construction.
I agree. I gotta be honest, I don't, the way my predictions are out, because like I was saying, I have Everything Ever winning editing. I have Top Gun winning not one Oscar.
You don't even have it for sound?
No, I have Elvis for sound.
I think Top Gun is gonna take sound and editing together.
So I have Elvis for sound, And
You have Elvis winning like 5 awards too.
So I have Elvis winning. Here's what I have Elvis winning. I have it for sound. I have it for production design, though I'm ready to move Babylon back up to the top. I have Babylon in second. I have it in hair and makeup. I have it in costume design. I have it in cinematography, and I have it in best actor. So I think I have Elvis winning 5 as well. 1,
So you have
2,
Elvis
3, 4.
and Everything Everywhere winning 10 Oscars together.
Yes.
Okay.
Which I don't think is that far-fetched.
Back to adapted screenplay.
Yes.
I too currently have Women Talking in first, and I mostly did it because it made it into Best Picture, but I don't know if like that's just kind of a mirage because it still only has 2 nominations, and I do feel like now with the hard 10 we're just gonna have more and more Best Picture nominees with 1 nomination, and maybe eventually just the Best Picture nomination like Grand Hotel.
Yeah.
So but like I did some research, and the last film to win adapted screenplay with just 1 other nomination was Sling Blade by our guy Billy Bob Thornton.
Love Billy Bob.
It only had 1 other nomination for Best Actor for him. I mean, we did this in Oscars playback.
We did.
Everyone loved him. Standing O, just rapturous applause. And you know who campaigned for him? Elizabeth Taylor.
Wow.
No one cared. Remember? No one tried to cancel her for that. So, but
that's kind of why. Actually, that's kind of why I have. That was kind of why I have her winning, Sarah Polley winning, because I feel like she is a beloved. I get the sense she's beloved. Maybe I'm overestimating my beloved for her.
I don't think Women Talking is as beloved as Sling Blade was.
No, I don't think the movie is, but I think she as a personality is. Like, people like her.
I don't know. I don't know if I go like I love her too, but I wouldn't put her in that same realm yet of the Billy Bob love.
Okay.
But I think like she could be just a default winner here. And I don't know, but like Top Gun and All Quiet are clearly the stronger Best Picture nominees, but neither of them feel like screenplay winners because one is just a war film and the other is an action blockbuster sequel. So I don't know. And then Living also just has 1 other nomination in actor, and then Glass Onion is a lone nominee.
Living, I would actually think could win too, but I just don't know if it's strong. It's definitely not strong enough, and I don't know. This is like a tight category. So like I said, I have Elvis now winning 5 Oscars, which is nuts, right? I mean, that's like certifiable probably. But I don't know. Do you have it winning? What do you have? Like, what do you have for hair and makeup? It seems like everyone's got either. This is a competitive category, but what do you have?
I have Elvis.
Same.
Okay. So I have Elvis in right now, that costume and actor. Okay. So I have it in for 3 so far. I did think about doing it for production design because I could just see Catherine Martin just doing that double again. But I currently have Babylon there, and I also have Babylon for score, and I'm like, is Babylon going to win 2 Oscars? Like, maybe, yes. I don't know. Like, those are 2 of its best aspects.
I think it actually will win these 2. I moved it back into. I've moved Babylon up ahead of Elvis here as we're talking to make it an even 5 because I had it for 6. But yeah, I think Babylon won production design. Also, I think it helps that Babylon is on VOD this week, Joyce, and my feed is a lot of tweets.
Did you rewatch it yesterday?
No, but you know what? I did order the 4K Blu-ray, which comes out after the Oscars, and I can't wait to luxuriate in the epic Damien Chazelle classic that was totally done dirty by everyone upon release. But I think it could win production design, and I think it could win score for sure. But then, so you don't have. So I have Elvis. Where do I have Elvis? Then that was nuts. Oh, sound. I just thought a lot of sound, but maybe I'll put Top Gun in there to give it.
A lot of sound, but the Top Gun sound. So if they still had the 2 categories, Elvis would win sound mixing, and Top Gun would win sound editing.
So, what do you think then? Which is weighted more than for this? Because I agree with you. I think they would win for sound mixing and sound editing. But do you think in this
I
now.
just think Top Gun has the edge just as like the action movie,
Okay.
you know.
All right,
So
move Top Gun
and then
back
there's also like sound and editing also usually linked. So
right. Yeah, but I still think Everything Everywhere is going to win editing because they like it the most, and it's got the most editing.
it does, but it also missed sound. So
True. So maybe I'll knock out an Everything Everywhere win there to have it win 4 instead of 5.
you're just gonna have it win all above the line Oscars, which is entirely possible.
Definitely likely based on what we've seen in the past, right? It would be like one more than Coda did last year. I got nothing else here, Joyce. What else we got coming up?
In our predictions, I don't know. I mean, I think everything else is pretty, like, I'm assuming you have Key and Angela.
I do. I don't see any way Key is going to lose at all. I could see Angela losing, but again, I don't really believe it. So
No, I think she's just the Globes did her a big favor.
and then
she also delivered an amazing speech that reminded people that she's won a Globe before and that she did not win the Oscar then. And if they did not know she did not win the Oscar then, they may have just Googled, like, does Angela Bassett have an Oscar? And they see that she doesn't and has only been nominated once at that point. So,
and then let's see.
I mean, actor, you have Austin for now, right?
So that's the other one that's very close. And I have Austin for now, yes. Because I'm a big Elvis
I think
supporter.
is the overall odds. I think Brendan is still in first in the odds,
I think
right?
so. Let me look. Well, in the experts odds. So just for experts, we'll just go through experts because that's what I have open. Everything Everywhere, 18 experts out of 21 predicting have Everything Everywhere. 14 experts out of 21 predicting have the Daniels. And then 11 and 10 for Kate and Michelle. Split.
Tight one.
Really tight. No other person with a vote. And then for actor, 12 experts with Brendan Fraser, 6 with Austin Butler, including the 2 of us, and then 3 for Colin Farrell.
Wow, poor Colin.
Angela Bassett has 18 experts predicting her.
Okay.
Ki Hu Kwan, a complete sweep. All 21 experts predicting him.
Congratulations to him.
An adapted screenplay, 16 for Women Talking. Original, 10 for Banshees and 9 for Everything Everywhere, with a lone vote for Tar. Seems like a Hope diction there more than anything else. Cinematography, All Quiet has 17 votes, but I have Elvis winning this. I'm one of the 3.
I have All Quiet.
I think Elvis is going to pull it off.
You're just in the tank for Elvis.
I am, because I think they like it more than even All Quiet. I don't know.
Mandy Walker is going to make history.
I think there's a reasonable chance that she could. Costume design, I have Black Panther. 13 experts have Black Panther.
I have Elvis there.
Oh, maybe I have Elvis there, but 13 experts have Black Panther. Film editing, 13-7. Makeup and hair, 10 for The Whale, 7 for Elvis.
Wait, editing 13 for what?
Top Gun, and 7 for Everything Everywhere. And in production design for the experts, an even split, it looks like, between Babylon and Elvis, and then Avatar. So Babylon and Elvis have 8 each. Avatar with 3. Best score, Babylon kind of running away. Best song, RRR running away with Not To.
I don't feel confident about that, and I have it in first.
Not at all confident about that. I definitely think it could be something else, including This Is a Life, which I actually have in second for Everything Everywhere. Just going on the idea that they like the movie the most.
I mean, it's certainly possible, like Judas style, right? So I don't know. I think a lot of people are also hoping Rihanna will get the Super Bowl halftime show bump.
Yes.
But I'm like, is she actually going to perform Lift Me Up during the halftime
if
show?
If she does, it would be an incredible flex, but I don't know if she will. Maybe she'll do an intro like Lift Me Up. Yeah, and that's it. Then we got the shorts and stuff, which we'll do, I think, later. But it seems like everybody.
Sound and visual effects.
Sound is Top Gun with 16.
Yeah, visual effects is Avatar.
And Avatar, all 20 experts predicting in that category have Avatar. An animated feature, 19 of 20 have Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Documentary, 9 have All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, 5 Fire of Love, and 4 Nalvani. I have Nalvani in that one.
I I thought about that putting it first, and I end up somehow putting it in fourth. I don't know.
I have it first. I do think that
No,
the
I definitely think it can
kindness-
win. Like it's very basic appealing.
Yes, and you could just imagine a lot of these. I'm like always trying to imagine the moment on stage. I know they don't vote like this, but I also think they don't not vote like this. And I'm like, that'd be a great moment, probably, right? Like the Oscars saying, you know, Russia's bad. International film, All Quiet on the Western Front, a clean sweep with 20 experts. The Boy, the Mole, The Fox and the Horse, 17. My Year of Dicks, 2. And Ostrich Told Me the World is Fake, and I believe it won. I could see My Year of Dicks pulling this off, honestly, but we'll see. I
didn't put it in first yet, but I can see it happening. The other issue here is that there are multiple nominees with great titles.
Yes. And then documentary short, Elephant Whisperers has 15. I have How Do You Measure a Year, which I'm the only one apparently predicting that. But I think the person who directed is the previous winner, right? Didn't he win last year? Or was he nominated last year? I forgot. But it sounded like the most emotional one.
I could see Hall Out winning. I have that in second, so I haven't put it in first yet. So I don't know. I haven't watched all these shorts yet. So
me neither, as you might imagine. And then what was the last one? Oh, and then live action short, Les Pupilles with 11. That's the Alfonso Cuarón short. An Irish Goodbye with 5. Red Suitcase with 2. Night Ride with 1. And Navalu with 1. That's the only one, I think, with every expert predicting a different winner. Only category we have so far. So really kind of tightening up. Oh, I'm a liar. Score also is pretty competitive. Babylon with 13, but then Fabelmans, Banshees, All Quiet, and Everything Ever all have a vote.
Yeah, that's pretty open because I can see any of those winning.
Same. But I'm going down with Babylon. Going down my fave.
It's definitely the most music.
Definitely the most, definitely the best music. How's that?
Is it though?
Is it though? Yes.
I mean, I would, this would not be my list of nominees, but of this, I would vote for Banshees.
Joyce, while we're here,
vote for Babylon.
We've dragged this out so much. I have the list of Eddie Award nominees. Would you like to do
I know
that?
we had a WGA and ACE after Oscar nominations.
Here are the Eddie Awards for Best Edited Feature Film and Drama, Joyce. It was All Quiet, Elvis, Tar, Top Gun, and The Woman King. Good list. And then for comedy, Banshees, comedy, I'm going to put in quotes then. Banshees, Everything Everywhere, Glass Onion, The Menu, and Triangle of Sadness.
Yeah. So, no Fabelmans.
No.
But Fabelmans didn't make the Oscars anyway, so.
No, and I didn't expect it to either. So there you go. But Tar,
even though editing was a component of that movie.
That would have been I guess we would have if we had this before the Oscar nomination, we were like, wow, Tar, let's put it in.
You definitely would have you probably would have put in like Woman King too. Like what else? Like
no, because I had I would have had Everything Everywhere, Elvis, Tar, Top Gun, and then probably Banshees. I still would have had Banshees, I think, yeah. I would have put in Tar though.
I know, like those were like that and cinematography were the two I was like, I want to put in Tar, and then I didn't know what to drop. It turned out I should have dropped Top Gun from cinematography. So,
and then yeah, nothing else here. I mean, they do TV and stuff. This is great. I'm sure it's in the prediction center. By the time you're watching this, you can vote for it, I'd imagine. So, Joyce, we could wrap up here. And I guess we'll talk again next week. What do we got next week? We'll just find something else to talk about. Maybe one of these categories. We don't have to talk about.
Wait, you forgot our questions.
Oh wow, I forgot our questions.
Because we haven't done them in a month, literally.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well.
We literally said we're gonna resume questions today, and then you were gonna end it without them.
Damn it. Wow. All right. We're doing questions. If you have a question, email us at slugfest@goldderby.com. We have a lot. I'll do a lightning round, Joyce. First up from Brad. Who's next for a surprise Oscar nomination? Donald Glover or Zazie Beetz?
Oh, from the Atlanta crew.
Yeah.
Well, obviously it has to be in supporting, right?
Yes.
I would say Donald.
I think Donald probably too, but he doesn't make a lot of movies, Joyce. So I could see.
No,
So we'll
but
see.
he just needs like a good like 8-minute scene like Judd Hirsch.
Yeah, he does.
So yeah.
I'll read you this one. This one's just to gas me up. This is from Frank. He sent it last week and I actually replied to him. So Frank, if you made it this far and you're watching, he said, Chris, I'm still beyond loving the podcast and I'm sure you're ridiculously busy this week, but I wanted to reach out because after hearing the supporting actor nominees, I immediately said to myself, Chris was right about Brian Tyree Henry. No one else actually had him in. And Chris is going to be so mad, frustrated because he was saying Judd Hirsch the whole season, but then switched to Paul Dano. And you were right. In hindsight, Judi Dench's nomination last year does show that they're paying attention to the veterans, but I didn't think Hirsch would get in for just one scene.
Were you really, did no one else have Brian?
I can't imagine that's true, but
yeah, because he was definitely in play for sure.
Right.
And I mean, I definitely saw like a lot of film Twitter, not a lot, but like some film Twitter people predicting him. Yeah, you did. You were on the Judd boat.
I could have went 5 for 5 if I would have just done.
I know you
myself.
were swayed by Paul's SAG nomination.
I was,
but yeah, he got denched. But again, we've seen this time and time again, not just with Judi and Katrina last year, but they did with Michael Shannon and ATJ 1.0.
Yep,
with Nocturnal Animals. So
I also think I allowed myself to get. I overestimated that they didn't like Fabelmans, right? Because it still ended up with like 7 nominations, and like clearly they did like it. If they didn't like it as much as like the frontrunner status would have had you believe, it still was like a popular movie. So I was like, there's no way they're going to nominate Judd for a cameo performance in a movie that they're not wild about. But as it turns out, they were fine with the movie. They just didn't love it. Like,
oh yeah, no, I never thought they hated the movie. I just thought they were not passionate about the movie.
Right.
And I think how this shook out reflects that, because he, like, Judd is great in that scene, but I think most people would say Paul overall gave the better performance, and it's a much more realized character. Just, basically had more time to play the character in the film. But I think it just felt like kind of like an easy name check for Judd Hirsch.
Right.
And it's definitely the more memorable scene because Paul's character is a lot more quiet.
Yeah. This is a great one, Joyce. Maybe you'll be able to answer this one, or we can talk about it. This is from Darren. I love the show and the rapport you two share. It's a highlight of my week. Even better when you do multiple episodes during a week. Not for us, but we enjoy doing it. It's fun. Here's his question. If Angela Bassett wins an Oscar for Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which is streaming now on Disney Plus, by the way, Joyce, you can watch it. Anybody can watch it. I assume more people will have seen her performance than most Oscar-winning roles, just based on audience data adjusted for inflation. I'm guessing that, for example, the most seen Oscar-winning performances are perhaps Vivien Leigh and Hattie McDaniel in Gone with the Wind. But what performances in modern Oscars era have been seen by the most people?
Oh my God.
Like, that's like pretty good, right? I mean,
like, are we just, okay, well, should we just pull up Best Actor? I mean,
it would be like based on box office and like.
But what are we just defining like 21st century?
I guess modern era, we could say whatever we want.
Or like the last decade.
Yeah. Like Best Actor.
I don't think most people watched King Richard last year.
I mean, I would say Joker would probably be up there.
Joker with Bo Rap.
Joker and Bo Rap did Joker made like $1 billion, so it feels like based on box office, that would be a significant amount of people saw him play the Joker.
Yeah, and then people just kept watching Bo Rap over and over again.
And Bo Rap also did incredibly well at the box office. I think it made almost $1 billion as well. So those are 2 movies that were widely seen.
I don't think anyone else here, like Darkest Hour, no, Manchester.
Not a lot of people watching Manchester by the Sea.
I love Manchester by the Sea. That's my favorite film of 2016. But
good movie.
No, Revenant, Theory of Dallas Buyers Lincoln, The Artist. Oh my gosh.
And then for actress, I'm just looking there quick.
Tammy Faye.
Not a lot of people watch Tammy Faye or Nomadland or Judy or The Favorite or Three Billboards.
La La Land
was a huge hit, so I would say that's probably the most watched Best Actress performance in the last 10 years.
But even so, like, not a lot.
And Black Swan was a pretty big hit, but not a lot.
Yeah.
Silver Linings was a solid hit, but not a lot.
Yeah, a lot of these are pretty mid. I mean, like Blindside, like for sure.
Maybe that's the most. And then best supporting actress. Let's see. This is, look at this one. This is like, who's watching these?
Well, The Help was a hit.
Yeah. This is a tough, not a lot of big blockbusters here, let's say.
The Danish Girl.
And then for best supporting actor in the last decade or so, a lot of people watching Coda, Joyce.
No.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was a big hit. Green Book was not a big hit.
Like they were like moderate hits. I mean, I definitely know regular people who watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I don't know a regular person who's seen Coda.
I mean, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Django Unchained were also like pretty big, like almost 400 million for Django Unchained. And
I mean, I guess we'll have to go back to The Dark Knight for that.
Yeah, that would be like the first. That would be it. Yeah. So it turns out being a superhero is going to be a great way to get people to watch a movie.
Just be in comic book IP.
Yeah. All right. Let's see if other ones I got here. No, that one. No. Let's see.
Wow, he just rejected all of your questions.
Some of these are just left though, you know, because we haven't done a great job of promoting it. Some of these are
we slacked on it this month because there were just a lot of live events.
I'll give you one more that we'll end it on, and then we can, if you want to email us, I promise you I'll read these next time. Joyce will keep me to it, but it's slugfest@goldderby.com. This one is from Derek. He loves visiting Gold Derby, Joyce, especially around award season. I want to say Joyce and Chris do such a great job speaking on award season, especially the Oscar playback videos, all of which I watched. Please bring them back for season 2. I love learning about the history of the winners and the scandals behind it all.
The scandal? You mean like campaigning tactics?
I guess so. Maybe we'll do it again and we'll do an Oscar. So we could do, I'm already like very excited for us to do our incredibly early 2024 Oscar picks after the Oscars. And then maybe we do an Oscars playback on this year's Oscar.
No, too soon.
No.
Way too soon.
Okay. But we can bring it. I want to bring it back, Joyce, even though we're out of our books. We could bring it back.
It's not like you even read them.
I don't read, but I look at the book. You know, I don't read the words.
Like 2 sections of each chapter.
I read when you text me about them.
Because I know you're not reading it. I take screenshots of the book and I send it to you inside Oscar.
It's so bad that I'll read a screenshot, but not actually paper. But we could bring it back, I think, for the 2000s.
It's like, well, so like as I've said in those videos, if you've watched them, I don't want to go into the 2010s because I feel like that's too recent. And we did a special episode on the 2006 year Departed just because we loved The Departed. But even watching that one, I didn't have as much fun because I felt like it was too recent.
No, but we also did the 2001 ceremony, right?
Yeah, we've already done some 2000s, so I guess we could finish the
I think we could finish them because there's some good ones coming up, certainly.
There are some good ones. One of them has my favorite Oscar win of all time.
Oh, don't even tell me what it is. What is it?
So, you want me to give it away now?
No, don't give it away now. Don't give it away now because we have to do it.
I could tell you offline.
Tell me offline, yeah, but then we'll leave it for the viewers.
Yeah, so I guess we did talk about like maybe we could go into the 80s because we also did one 80s ceremony because it was Billy Crystal's first one.
I think we could do both, but maybe we start with the 2000s, I guess, and then we'll see.
We don't need to do all of these all at once because then we'll run out of ceremonies.
Yeah, we're gonna run out. We got to save it for season 3, the 80s. We're going back to the 80s. All right. So slugfest@goldderby.com. Email us your complaints and comments, and Joyce will do this again next week, and I'll have more emails. I promise.
We'll review all the questions next week.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.